Hello fellow speculators. I'm just researching some more of my favorite little stocks. And one of those is Far Limited. They're a little oil exploration company, has projects around Africa. They're listed in Australian markets. Their symbol is FAR. And so I was at their website. They have a presentation that I was just looking at. This is dated April 15th, I believe. This is the first I've noticed it. And I just thought this is an interesting one. See if I can do him some justice and point out what I was seeing in here. They start out with their bragging about Senegal. FAR delivers in Senegal. If you haven't been following FAR or updated on FAR, they drilled a couple wells offshore Senegal and made some finds. So here's the highlights. We've got first mover advantage. They've got partners. This is the neat part. This is what I like about this little company and their style of business. They did some joint venture deals. We've got Cairn Energy to come in and work on their offshore Senegal fields, and then Conoco Phillips came in behind them and put up even more money to work on their offshore fields. And they drilled these two wells, FAN-1 and SNE-1, and now they're calling them world-class oil discoveries. And this presentation is going to go on and talk about that. And they're announcing in here they've got a 3-well drilling program starting from Q4 2015. So not too far away, they're going to start drilling some more wells. And they're bragging about the economics, what they believe the economics of this SNE field to be. They estimate the IRR 10% at $45 a barrel. So some people are saying, oil prices are down. Why should we go look for more? They're saying the economics work at $45 a barrel. They could get a break even at $45 a barrel, I guess they're saying. So anything above that, they can make some money, and it's attractive to go after. And why not go find some more? If you can find it for less than you can sell it for, you can make some money. So that's what they're trying to do. And they're also saying it's a good cost-effective environment because a lot of the other people are quitting and the equipment's coming up. It's a lot easier to get your hands on the best equipment and the best people for the best prices in down markets, and they're pointing that out. Market summary, saying their symbol is FAR. Share price recently 0.097 cents. It's Australian money. Market cap's about $300 million. Cash $67 million at the end of 2014. So they've got some cash. They're not a broke little joke of a penny stock. And saying their largest shareholders is Farjoy, who's a big promoter of the company too. They got a lot of turnover in their shares. It does a lot of volumes. If you want to buy a big position, it's easy to move in and out of there with size. Bragging up, they have no debt. It's a lot of cash and no debt in this company. Let's move on. In Africa, they have these projects offshore Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, and Kenya. So they're on both sides of the country, and they're saying they're Africa focused with a wide portfolio, different projects in these different countries. They've got a bunch of African experience by far as board and management. If you ever talk to the people there, especially the lady that runs it, and you get a taste for her love of Africa and the experience and time that she's spent in these different countries, talking to these different governments and local people and working with operators and dealers there, you'll understand that local experience is definitely there. Corporate focus on Senegal. They're going after this. After these discoveries have come in, they're going for it. Let's move on. Senegal. Senegal is Africa's, way western Africa on the tip out here. We got these large offshore concessions. It's hardly anyone to touch this place before, so you could just stake up the whole thing. Now they've got discoveries. It's probably a hot commodity. So they're talking about some large areas that they cover. And they've been in Senegal since 2006. Operator, 90% interest on these projects before the Conoco Phillips and Cairn came in and put up, almost $200 million in in work, and they gave him cash. They gave him cash up front to get into these deals. They've got, friendly partners, friendly governments they're working with. They're still talking to them. They take calls, they answer. They're not pissed off at anything. Everything's going well. And Senegal has a stable outlook, and they're talking up the politics of Senegal. I think this is a good place to operate. And there's some of the terms. Joint venture partners are FAR at 15%, Cairn Energy, the operator, at 40%, and then Conoco Phillips 35%. Petrosen was just like the government, basically at 10%. Senegal prospects, they're pointing out their 2 discoveries and their fields, and they focus in a little more detail. And the FAN-1 discovery is this big green blob with the black dots where they drilled the well, and the SNE-1 discovery, it's a little bit shallower one on this red blob and the black dots where they drilled. They have all these other fields that are potential, looking at seismic work in there as well. And then they get even more details. We're drilling down and focusing in on those plays. Here's a seismic line of kind of a cartoon of where they drilled those last 2 wells. The FAN-1 well is a deeper one, going into this stuff out here, and SNE-1 is a shelf edge play kind of thing, and it'll let you interpret that. This FAN-1, talking about 100 kilometers offshore. It's drilled at 1,400 meters water depth, total depth of 4,927 meters. I mean, this is deeper stuff, and we're really looking out there in the edge of the continent and the deeper water, and deeper ground to find this stuff. I mean, it's not super deep, but it's deeper. High quality light oil, 28 to 41 degree API. Theoretically, the lighter gravity you get, the more you can sell the stuff for, the more readily it flows, and the easier it is to work it into a combustion fuel to sell into the markets. Gross oil bearing interval greater than 500 meters, no oil water contact encountered. You got a bunch of little seams in there that are more the oil bearing seams and stuff in between them. Put it all together, you got 500 meters. Net oil bearing reservoirs, so those little seams in between I was talking about, if you add them all up, it's 29 meters of net reservoir. And the operators of this thing are estimating some big numbers of what the size of oil they believe is in place, and they're just breaking down the numbers, paying interest, beneficial interest. I'll focus on this 15%. But I think it's because the difference between the numbers is because they carry the government. If I'm right on that, government gets free carried for 10% basically. So looking at the FAN-1 and looking at where they believe these probabilities are, they go drill a bunch of holes into this thing. How much can you get out of it? And the math and logic of the probabilities of the big numbers that they've come up with of oil in place, they might be able to get out of there some percentage of that. More technical information and looking at this thing in a one-dimensional point of view from the top, looking north, south, east, and west. Where does this thing go? Whereas this is slicing it from the side and looking at it sidewise, like cutting a piece of paper in half and looking at the grains in there versus laying the piece of paper out flat. And here's a map of the thing. FAN-1 analogy. Now they get into some arm waving. You've got a field in not too far away, one of the neighboring countries. It's Jubilee, just around the corner to the south, and inside south a bit down the coast you got the Jubilee field, and I believe it's Tullow Energy, and I forget who else is involved in that, but I think Tullow is the main one, operator out of London that's into the Jubilee field. But I believe there's some others involved in that field as well. But Tullow, if you go look at Tullow's website, you can learn more about the Jubilee field. And they're comparing this Jubilee field, which is a sweet find that people have been looking for another one ever since. They're saying it's the same kind of geology. I'm saying it's pretty darn close to the same kind of depth. Fan 1's a hair shallower. The oil gravity, they might have some that's lower gravity, some that's higher gravity. Or Jubilee's a tighter spread of specifically this kind of oil. These guys get some different gravities over theirs, over the spread of theirs. Gross oil interval. This is what FAR really likes to brag about, because they've got this big wide section with a bunch of little seams in there. You mean you stick the well into that section, you're going to run into those seams theoretically, right? The gross interval on Jubilee is 51 to 27, I think, because they have maybe multiple wells all over the place. It depends on what part of the field you're drilling into to get that spread, you know, some thinner parts to some thicker parts. If you start out with this nice thicker chunk and you shoot all over the neighborhood, inevitably you find some thinner parts and probably some thicker parts too. Net oil reservoir, this is how much it actually pays. So across the Jubilee field, they're finding 23 to 95 meter kinds of net pay, and in this one well that Fan 1 has is 29. I mean, they're in there. This is, you go drill all over the neighborhood, you probably get the same kind of spread. How much oil they might be in place. Jubilee's got a lot more drilling, a lot more data to go off of, and they're coming up with 3 billion barrels, and the Fan 1 up to 2.5 billion barrels, and they're just going off of one well. I mean, to get more data, you can focus in on that number, but it's the same kind of size potential roughly of a field. Recoverable reserves, how much of this oil can you actually get out of the ground? It's you know, a little over a sixth of it here, you know, 20% or something, 15%, or you know, some percent like that of the oil you might actually be able to get out with modern day economic methods. Later on someday, probably even higher percentages using other methods as technology progresses and economics change. But the discovery date 2007, and this one 2014. Production took them 3 years from discovery to production. We'll see how long it takes these guys to go from discovery to production. Jubilee well results. Yeah, here they go. They're looking at different wells and different net pays. Let's move on. SNE-1 oil discovery. So this discovery, it's this is the other one. So we were just talking about the Fan 1 discovery. Now let's go top to bottom on the S&E discovery. This is the second discovery of 2. So this is 100 kilometer offshore, 1,000 meters of water, a little bit shallower, maybe 30% less depth. 3,000 meters total depth, is shallower there too. Classified as one of the world's largest oil discoveries in 2014 by, I don't really know who this is. Discovered very good sandstone reservoir and a well-defined structural trap located in Cretaceous clastic shelf edge play. Some geological terms for you. Saying 32 degree API oil. American Petroleum Institute rating 32 degrees is really nice stuff. I mean, that's like sweet. You can sell it for good money. Good quality of oil right there. Gross oil column 95 meters with a gas cap. Net oil pay 36 meters. So a bunch of little seams in this overall 95 meter intersection that total 36 meters. Contingent resource. There's some estimates how much they believe to be in there. And again, they break down the numbers. 15% beneficial interest after you account for the government free riding on their overall interest. It kind of dilutes them down to about 15%. Let's drill into this S&E Here's a seismic line looking at it from the side. What they believe to be the play and the geology and the different seams in there. Here's looking at it from above, and you can kind of guess the magnitude of this thing, how far it goes in different directions. Here's a concept of developing it, where you could have one drill ship and a whole plethora of trunks going down to the sea floor in different directions, drilling and producing and making it happen. This is a modern day quagmire of engineering to bring one of these things to market in the most efficient way possible without building stuff on top of each one of these drill locations, like kind of the past where you used to have rigs on top of each one of them. You almost had to be straight above it to drill it. Now you can just drill all over the place if you have a sophisticated ship like the modern ones are. Senegal shelf prospects. Now they go back to this regional map and looking at all these different basically sedimentary deposits offshore Senegal. You know, you had millions of years of weather washing out all kinds of matter, you know, organic matter to sea that deposited itself in different parts, you know, different times deposited different things. And as you go back in past, I mean, sometimes we had more oxygen and there was more stuff growing, more plant matter and animals and insects and all kinds of things than there are now. And some of those times created better oil deposits. Some other times had different geological events that capped them in there. So you had all the rotting matter that got capped and trapped. Now we can drill a hole in it and produce some oil. So they're trying to figure out which one of those are the most beneficial ones to drill, most economic, but basically saying there's all kinds of potential around here. We have a huge piece of acreage with lots of stuff to shoot at on it. They're looking at a couple different lines of seismic on this field. Here's their inventory, and what I like to look at is chance of discovery. As a speculator, you know, what are your odds? If you can boil down odds with any kind of accuracy, it can make speculating a lot more accurate. And so what this company is doing is they're speculating on these different prospects. They're taking the highest percent chance to discovery stuff compared to the highest size. You know, this 49% is a better chance of discovery than this 43. But if you look at sizes and things, the kinds of plays, the kinds of rocks you're working, you put all these factors together, you can they pick what targets they want as their speculation. So they look at all kinds of variables, but this chance of discovery is an interesting one for me to look at. There's your timetable. So we're Q2 2015 right now, and they drilled the fan 1, SNE1. They've been looking at the data. Now they're starting to tell us, you know, this well planning is happening, and hey, we're going to drill some wells later this year, Q4, maybe Q1 of 2016. But you know, the last couple months of 2015, towards the end of 2015, early 2016, we're going to go drill 3 more wells. All these prospects, we're going to cook them down, get the best looking ones, and start drilling. After that, we might drill some more wells, depending on what we find. So they got a nice drill program coming right up. They're doing more 3D seismic starting this summer, and get more data over this whole thing. Compile that data with the wells they've drilled, and they'll get even more accurate. Bragging about costs, you know, offshore drilling costs are coming down, and they should really be coming down now with the oil prices down like they are as well. Guinea-Bissau projects. This is a country to the south of Senegal, and little country, little poor country, but they've got potentially lots of oil offshore. And so this lady that runs this company, Kath, maybe she hit it off with the lady that runs Guinea-Bissau. I don't know how they got these prospects, but they did. And they're looking for partners. They got Svenska working on part of it and looking to move them forward, and we'll see how that goes. Kenya, I think this is an interesting part, and I'll talk more about this than the Guinea-Bissau ones because I studied it more. They believe they've got this blue stuff here is an offshore, this old coral reef, and a couple wells have been drilled. I believe to the south was BP. They drilled this Sunbird well, Sunbird 1 well, and Block 10A was oil and gas discovery. And they believe this reef just keeps going right up through here. And L9 is far, and L6 is far. And this onshore stuff, they've joint ventured off to this company, Milo E&P, and the offshore they still hope to joint venture off. They've got drill ready prospects, offshore 3D seismic stuff. They really want this to work. They think because of this discovery, it makes this stuff much more prospective. And there's been speculation that FAR might get this middle block, and we'll hear about that someday too. But that seems to be one that's up. We'll see where that one falls. But this, maybe they could lock up a big piece of this reef play, and as you hit the different coral heads, knock them out one after one and bring some oil into production. So I would expect that they find partners for these plays, the whole thing or parts of it, or one way or another, some partners to come in and put up the money to drill this. You probably hear some announcements about that like they had in the past when they got Cairn and Conoco Phillips to sign up to their offshore Senegal deals. And over time, this one hopefully will fall in line with Senegal and follow the same success story. But for now, it's part of their pipeline to build the company more in the future. So they've also got some permits offshore Australia that I don't know much about. I'll move on from that. They're talking about the share price compared to the oil price. They made a discovery. That stuff stands out in the markets. Liquidity, they got a lot of shares that trade on this thing. It's a really old company. It's been reworked a couple times, but there's shareholders that go back and around and beyond. It's a long shareholder list. So there's it trades a lot more volume than most companies of its size or in its market, or however you want to compare it. It trades a lot of shares. Here's the Kath Norman I was just talking about before, who's always been the most vocal from about this company. When I ask questions, she's the one that responds. They talk about community, and Kath has always been very big into the community as well, and promoting being having good working relationships with the community. And there's their call to action. Just contact us. Feel free to ask questions. I'd say go sign up to their website. See if you can get news releases out of their website, and follow along. FAR Limited is one that's made some nice discoveries using partners' money. It's the way I like to see it done. And if you're interested in that kind of company and others like them, I'd recommend you please subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. And I'd like to keep you updated on this one and others like them, following the same kinds of strategies. So thanks for listening.